Got my notes. I have 18 now, 18, 19 pages of notes. It's fine. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Bill. This is a little different than Trying to Stand, where I try new things in pop culture because I've been living under a rock. First off, I want to say that I really appreciate the support for my Encanto video. I was not expecting it to go that well, so thank you. The comments especially, getting different people's thoughts and takeaways and interpretations, perspectives, adding things, whether it's a personal thing or something I missed, it helps me feel a lot less alone when I'm getting emotional or feeling like I'm overthinking something. It's comforting to know I'm not the only one. That goes for all the videos, but thank you. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about things I noticed and kind of reviewing and discussing Disney's Encanto, the 60th animated motion picture from Disney Studios. I've taken some notes. I watched it a couple of times and just want to talk about things, break it down, make a nice chill video. I haven't really done that many videos like this, so if you're interested in more, let me know. Like the video to support me and the channel and more animation and music content. Subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell, check the settings, set them to all, blah, 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 YouTube words. I have a gaming channel linked in the description, Build Chill Gaming, where I stream twice a week. And speaking of the description, there's also a card there that will send you to links for social awareness and education, mental health, crisis lines, Trevor Project resources, things like that. Should you or someone need them. Speaking of mental health and the like and crises, the music obviously let me know how heavy the themes were going to get, but I was not really expecting any of this. It was a really helpful reflection for me in a lot of ways, as I'm sure it was for a lot of people. There's obviously a lot of cultural themes and relevance that I don't know anything about. Very outside looking in there. The generational issues, how we can mishandle traumatic things in our lives and how that can affect those around us, specifically with a family. The story of Encanto, the 60th animated motion picture from Disney, centers around Mirabel, a young adult in a family of magic wielders, to put it generally, and sort of seeing not only a family dynamic, but a fantasy element being utilized to discuss the discourse and dysfunction and the lack of support and communication and empathy that can exist in a family. It's set in Colombia. Yeah, I don't know how to do the synopsis without giving things away. If you're watching this, I feel like you know. If you know, you know. It's on Disney Plus now, which I think is a huge, pardon the pun, gift. This is definitely a movie worth rewatching to pick up on the details. It's such a labor of love, because in something like animation, there is no, oh, it's funny, like, oh, the spoon accidentally fell over, or little details like that. It's all in a controlled environment. So every little detail, everything you could find, the background, the colors, the lighting, intentional, obviously, in entertainment in general, but it has to be built from nothing. And being able to rewatch it several times, pause it, rewind, look at things, a gift. Forgive me. The music, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, does do its job well, in my opinion, of not only adding to a Disney animated motion picture experience. Any good musical utilizes the peak of emotions when things can't be expressed any other way but through song. I think the soundtrack does a really great job at embodying that philosophy. It's hard. I have some thoughts that I wouldn't really call criticism, but just more wants from it. There's really not a lot of fat, as they say. It's all protein. There's very little to cut out to yield more time to add something. So it's really hard. I really appreciate that this movie exists. I really admire tackling these themes and doing it in a bright and colorful, fun, but then also intense way. I think I'm just gonna go in order, because I was writing notes as I go, so a lot of these notes are going to be relatively in order. The movie centers around the miracle of these magic powers or gifts bestowed upon the family Madrigal, which seem to have, for lack of a better word, skipped Mirabel, our main character. She's a young adult without powers in a magical family. There's a lot to be said there, not only about feeling like you don't fit in, then also having such a tangible element of disconnect from the rest of your family, even down to something as simple as her parents, who are on my very long list of characters I wish we had more time with. Her parents even reminding her, you have nothing to prove. You are still a part of this family. You are special. But it's also that reality of that support is great. Words are different than action, and we see the faults of this family and how this cycle of neglect and I'd even say abuse really is kind of enabled and facilitated, intentional or otherwise. And that's already my favorite part of this story, is that nobody is intentionally malicious, and there's something to that where it doesn't alleviate impact to not have the intention there. Impact and intention are very different things. It shows you how this kind of stuff can happen subconsciously or under the radar or gradually over time. It does such an amazing job at presenting through this magic house and this magic family, somebody exploring these things and really wanting to get to the roots of it all, the core issue, finding your place. But then also, like I said, there's a tangible disconnect between our main character and the rest of her family, her eagerness to subvert and overcome that, and how that can only go so far. The platitudes of her parents can also only go so far. We see the support system of her mom and dad. You belong here, you're part of this family. But then when push comes to shove, dad's hiding the prophecy, mom just wants to fix things with magic food that heals you, and that's, it made the little cut on her hand go away, but it didn't change things. I loved feeling those subtleties throughout the overall message of, healthy relationships, communication, not only expectations, and again, culturally, I'm sure there's a lot of things there that I'm not going to pick up on. Those themes are so applicable in so many different ways. I appreciate this communal sense of people feeling an element of their experiences feeling addressed or seen. And we even start to see it in the lyrics of the opening song, Welcome to the Family Madrigal. The gifts, the magic powers are being used to help the community. It's less of a feeling of wanting to share the gifts to benefit the common good, but for the family, specifically Abuela, to prove oneself worthy, to use it for good, not for the sake of helping as much as for the sake of being worthy of it, to appease the magic. I'm not a professional, but it's borderline imposter syndrome, as well as definitely survivor's guilt, considering the loss of their grandfather, because that's something, this animation, it's so beautiful and vibrant, the colors and everything, but then you have like this dark, warm lighting at times, foreboding so much, even down to everyone's clothes, but specifically Abuela's, and how she has a black shawl draped over her, but even her colors of maroon, they're like, it's still a beautiful color, but it's a little darker. There's still layers, and then it's being engulfed by this shawl, almost like she's still in mourning, and that could be what that means. Again, I don't know. There's a lot of subtleties in this movie that I wanted to talk about. The whole community watches when a child in the family is bestowed with a gift, as well as a door with a room catered specifically to them. There's something about the whole town not only knowing her as the one child without magic, but then everybody was there. And I get the inclusion of the community, but that's such an added extra step. It has so much fanfare that of course that's going to be such a high stakes moment. And we see that again when the youngest of the family, Antonio, Mirabel's little cousin, it's his turn now. And it's not really talked about very long, but we learn that they both share the nursery, because again, when you get your magic, you get a door to your own room. Mirabel never got a door, she never got a power, she never got her own room. So already she's stunted in her life by still having to live in this nursery. It's a children's room. There's the alphabet written on the wall, suitable for a child, but very juvenile in nature. It's a really amazing, fast way visually to show you how stifled and kind of almost trapped she is without explicitly saying it. Because end of the day, you could just have built her a room or something. It's also this feeling of, once you are worthy with your gift, you get your own room, you get an upgrade in your life, you get your own space, an architectural seat at the table, right? But then we also see how loving she is for her family, not only in the family madrigal and how much she lifts up her family, talks so highly of them, proud to be part of this family, even if she is the one without a gift. We see it the most in her relationship with her younger cousin Antonio. It's going to be his big day. He's going to get his power and his door, but because it didn't happen for Mirabel, there's an added sense of tension, and already that theme of communication and understanding and support, it's already woven into the story. It's already a big day just in and of itself, but then having these stakes here and seeing Mirabel talking to her younger cousin Antonio, what if I don't get a power? And her still kind of stomaching her own pain from that topic, from this day, her own emotions around everything, still putting that aside to help Antonio. This is a healthy version of the unhealthy thing the family is doing. When someone needs support, putting your own things aside for a second to comfort somebody. But also, because of her perspective, she can honestly reassure him, well, then you'll be here with me, and that's not so bad either. You're still going to be a part of this family. You're still special. We get to still hang out. We get to share this awesome room together. Like, there's something about having this perspective that helps him. And I think we're going to get into my first weird, I might be looking too far into this kind of theory, but I think the linchpin for solving and ending this vicious cycle within this family is Antonio, given his power of being able to talk to animals, and then even referenced later on, he has like these critters warming Abuela's seat before they eat, and Abuela makes a comment after cringing at the animals in her chair. She says something along the lines of, we'll find a good use for your power. And it gives me this feeling of there's no direct utility in Antonio's power. He could have been the next Bruno, if not the next Mirabel. That cycle would have continued, and Antonio would have been the next ostracized person. Bruno being Mirabel's uncle, who has the ability to see the future, yet a lot of what he saw was apparently negative. No one really knew much about his powers. There's a lot of reveal there about how a lot of it has to do with choice and the paths we go down. It's very Doctor Strange in Avengers, where I kind of took it as, if I tell you something good that's going to happen, it might not happen. But if I tell you about something bad that's going to happen, we might be able to change it because now you're aware of it. But they associated him with the misfortunes of a lot of his visions. He was ostracized, blamed for a lot of things, and it got to the point where he saw the best way to help the family is to isolate himself from the family, and also his gift. I think that would have eventually possibly happened to Antonio. I can't think off the top of my head a lot of ways that talking to animals would have serviced the family or the community. Let me know in the comments. I guess you could stop animals attacking, or you could instruct the bees to pollinate more, or butterflies. I could see this being less of a utility and more of a creative based. Like, I kind of saw Antonio putting my own experiences on it as, being destined to go to art school. And it's like, well, how's that gonna help? I find that concept really interesting, that we kind of have this, like I said, very lightly touched on, barely even directly, concept of we'll find a use for Antonio's power, letting us know the cycle will continue in different facets in different ways if something doesn't change. And even in that same scene, we see what Mirabel thinks she wants isn't really what she needs. When she finally gets moved up the table to sit next to Abuela, it's a punishment. It's a negative lens. She wants so badly to have her approval. It's not even a matter of wanting a gift or a power. It's just wanting to belong, wanting her family's support, her grandmother's approval. And it kind of shows us how this version of your grandmother, no, you do not want that. I really appreciate those little elements and those little nuggets. Like, the world is so expansive in these little details, little references or lines that are picked up throughout the whole thing. Some things are really like an undercurrent. Like, I'll take Dolores as an example, the oldest cousin, I believe. I don't have a very big family, so it was very hard for me to keep track of everybody. Dolores, the oldest cousin, she has the power of this like super hearing ability. She can hear people throughout the whole community in town. There's moments where you can see her kind of covering her ears when there's like fireworks and things like that. She references being able to hear people from far away. She becomes the mouthpiece as well as the ear for Abuela. She carries all the secrets. She knew the whole time that Bruno didn't actually leave and disappear. He's still in the house. She knew and had to hold on to that. But we don't really explore that. It's just continuously sprinkled in throughout the story, through the dialogue, through visuals. It's a lot of implication. It's genius, but then it also breaks my heart. This could have been a 3-hour movie. This could have been a mini series. I think it should have been, in a world where we pay animation properly. I hope we do. My want for Encanto to have been a Disney Plus series feels so selfish in a world where we're not properly compensating animation work, let alone new media animation work. That's a whole other thing. Hashtag New Deal for animation. However, with so little time and so much having to be like sprinkled in implication, that extra layer, that extra dimension to the family, the characters, the story, I think is also the most gripping part, but it also feels like we don't have enough time to get into all this stuff. We need to go through the specifics. So it also kind of hurts me where it's like, man, like give this story an extra hour and you really could have explored everybody more, expanded on every character, because we really don't see a lot of the cousins. I wish this was a series. I wish there was more time in this story. It'd be cool to get like an epilogue series, a Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure, if you will. But I want an expansion on this story because I feel like there's so much here that has to be background dressing or implication. I wish there was a lot more. Dolores, I think, is this like unsung, hardly seen, intensely interesting character that I wish got a lot more time because she's carrying around this information. And I love like the dinner scene. They're staring at each other, like this intense amount of drama. She can't keep in the secret anymore because it almost, with that perspective, it's no longer Dolores shouldn't have said anything at dinner. We should have waited. She's been keeping this bottled up for so long. Someone finally knows. If we talked about these things more, things like that proposal dinner would have gone well. Speaking of, that being revealed to be like an arranged marriage situation broke me. My grandmother had an arranged marriage and eventually she was like, nope, and got out of that. And I'm grateful for it. That's how I got my grandpa, who was the most important person in my life, feeling everything of what else can I do with that just one added perspective that I didn't get from strictly the song, really added so much to it. Like not only with her power, but like taking control of her life, that feeling of duty to your family, again, culturally as well as thematically, but it just, holy damn, that inherent thought of sacrifice for, what's expected of you and your family. And that grass is always greener in regards to Mirabel and her sisters. And I wish we kind of had more of that with her cousins, at least with Dolores. Because Antonio's still figuring out his gift. He just got it yesterday. Or even Camilo, who gets no time at all, but I don't have it in me to write down, you could save time by cutting out one of these characters. I can't do it. I don't have it in me to give the thought or note, cut one of the characters to save time so you can expand more on the main focus of the story. I can't bring myself to do that. All these characters are interesting. They add so much, and then also, big family is a thing for a lot of people, personally or culturally. There's so much about having this big family. Removing a character would do a lot of harm to that concept, but also I can't pick somebody to pluck out of this. I just want 20 more minutes, a song and a scene with everybody. Double up. Mom and dad needed to say more and do more, but I wanted them to. It's such a frustrating, yes, leave me wanting more. That's good. That implies investment and interesting character, but I'm like, more, please. It's frustrating. I can't cut anybody out. I wish it was explored a little more why Mirabel didn't have a power. Did it dissipate because the family needed to learn to appreciate life without magic or appreciate someone without magic? That's messed up. I feel like overall it embodies how the family, specifically Abuela, is losing her connection to her family through her sharp focus and demands for things to be perfect so they can be worthy of these gifts. A toxic headspace in and of itself, let alone one that obviously will ooze into your environment and the people around you. In this case, your family. I love this kind of sense of the irony in her late husband didn't have any powers. So you're doing him not only a literal disservice in his sacrifice and this miracle you were given, it's something that Mirabel would have in common with the grandfather, because I don't know if the abuela has a power. It's just this concept of, well, he didn't have a power, so by that logic, you shouldn't be holding him in this high regard either. It's hypocritical. As the house is starting to crumble and crack, the magic is starting to flicker in the candle, and Abuela takes a very there isn't a Warren Bossing say kind of approach to it. I appreciated the dismissal because it's that one last nugget of tangible, you don't have a power, and hence in the eyes of especially Abuela, but the family's kind of logistics, you don't have a say at the table. Everyone just assumes some sort of jealousy or animosity from her and she's making stuff up. It feels like nobody really believes her, and even those who want to support her, i.e. her mom, who, again, I wish was more in this. She even tries to support her by acknowledging constantly, well, this must be a hard day for you. I wish we got a lot more with the mom. Was it a grilled cheese? It was something con queso. Queso means cheese. I learned that. Whatever she made Mirabel to help her hand, it was also what Bruno was eating in the wall. And I wondered, did the mom know that Bruno was in the wall, or she just made extra food for him and he just grabbed it? Was Dolores feeding him? Because she knew he was there. Because she made like 3 and handed her 1, and then we see Bruno with 1 later, and it made me wonder if mom knew too. Is that part of the not talking about Bruno thing? Is it's like half the family knew that he's living in the house and the walls. I don't know. She's putting a magic healing band-aid on the cut on her hand and not focusing on the bigger picture. Like I said, it's a placating support. It's not true full support. It's definitely better than nothing, but I appreciated seeing that trajectory there. There's something about that where it's like, this isn't true support either. And I liked that feeling. I just wanted more of the mom and dad. I wanted more of everyone. I wanted more of the aunt and uncle. More, please. Again, but how? Without making this like a mini series or 4 hours long, how? There's the complete negligence from Abuela, and then like the half measure that does nothing from her parents. You know, at least they'll acknowledge it, whereas her aunt and uncle, we don't talk about Bruno. The miscommunications there, not only with the memory of the wedding, but also Camilo not understanding anything about Bruno, seeing him as a boogeyman. It's interesting, and I think that even feeds to Dolores not wanting to say anything about knowing Bruno was in the wall. I loved seeing a visual representation of the aunt's anxiety and then seeing the dismissal of it from Abuela, but then seeing attempts at help from both Camilo and also her husband. I loved that, you know, like either just letting her know like, oh, it's okay. Like, you know, don't get him wet, you know, take a moment over here to breathe. There's a shot of like Camilo trying to give his mom tea while she's upset and stuff, or coffee. But then you see Abuela just like, get rid of that cloud. Those different responses and like someone adding to it. She like, I know there's a cloud over me. Her husband and her son trying to support her and be like, hey, it's going to be okay. I loved seeing those different approaches to it. I still love the music of this, but I loved getting more context to Luisa because she's the first one whose like powers are noticeably vanishing, because she's the one who I would argue probably uses her powers the most or has the most direct utility in having super strength. And there's also something measurable about it too, right? Her song still destroys me. Just those brief moments of acknowledging it either in the song or right after with a hug. I loved, there's little details like even saying the grown-ups. I heard the grown-ups talk about Bruno's vision once. There's something about that. Like that's how siblings talk. Like there's something so specific about that really pulled me in, but she still, like, despite all that, still points her sister in the right direction. While sure, you could argue it's on her to know when to say no or when to take a break, that expectation, that's not on her. Again, a very intense cycle of no, do more, be the best, be perfect, don't complain, don't groan, all in the name of wanting to justify having this gift, needing to justify your existence by doing so much to the point where it's too much. The comparison to the Titanic and the visuals too definitely took me a minute. That's what sank the Titanic, pushing it too fast, speeding it up, the negligence and the not being able to avoid the iceberg. I can appreciate that a little more, you know, letting everything breathe. Abuela instantly, what did you do when Luisa starts to lose her power? She instantly blames Mirabel, and it's really devastating because like you get the idea that like it's scary. She doesn't know what to do. We see her talk to the ghost of her late husband, trying to figure out what's going on with the miracle, with the magic. She doesn't understand it. She's afraid. And then she's like, we can't show vulnerability, refusing to ask for help, refusing to talk about it, neglecting the issue even further. There's never a grand moment until like the ultimate confrontation, but it builds so organically in smaller and gradually bigger ways. You're running on this assumption that she's the problem because you see her as imperfect. And again, it's the fact that like it's not in her head. It's not, oh well, you're being too hard on yourself. It's no, like there's like a legitimate toxic issue here, breaking literally the foundation of the magic, the house, and their family. I don't know. I think the linchpin for everything really centers around Bruno. He embraces the negativity that the family bestows upon him in a sense, right? He has like this almost compulsive, well, not almost, it's a fairly compulsive relationship with like superstition. He's knocking on wood, throwing salt over his shoulder, and then sugar, which I've never heard of, sealing in the cracks behind the scenes, living in the walls. This is a version of Mirabel who doesn't face or confront her family or help, but thinks helping is running away. Bruno is Mirabel if she makes the other choice, the one that would destroy the family. He has no self-worth. The pit he thinks he fell into, obviously only being like a couple feet deep because of like smoke, adding to this consistent theme of perception versus reality, right? He is the embodiment of another unhealthy choice that not only enables the cycle to continue, passing all that on to someone else, but it's also a self-destructive choice. It's hard, some people are going to see themselves in any character, and it's hard when you realize that you might be the Bruno. Like that, I think they did that really well. I don't live anywhere close to my family. Sometimes I do feel really disconnected, and sometimes that's been thrown in my face. I'm not here to vent about my family, but sometimes you just feel like the Bruno. Yes, there's obvious themes and elements, especially with the powers in the house and the abuela, but there's also a lot of subtlety that's addressed here, and I appreciate it because it's not something that's always going to be picked up so directly. Not every form of neglect or abuse or toxicity is going to be so in your face. The lighting isn't going to shift to a harsh red to let you know somebody negative in your life just showed up. And I think it plays to that really well. So much of it is so gradual, and I think that's what makes it so captivating and so organic. And I really appreciate it. Yeah. Bruno is a realist and punished for it. Yeah. Good job, notes. About halfway through the movie, we now have the goal of, well, if you connect with your sister Isabella, the perfect child, you'll be on track to save the family. At first, I thought it was very out of left field, but I get it. Give a moment for the sister. There needs to be more here, and there was. The pressures of being perfect, and, grass is always greener, and there being so much more to her power. She doesn't just grow flowers, she can grow plants. She grows a cactus when she finally admits openly that this is an arranged marriage and she doesn't want it, but she's doing it for the family. And it does so much honesty, the sign of growth. But she also had the only positive vision from Bruno. It's not addressed, and it wasn't referring to the arranged marriage. It's referring to the end of this story. Her powers will grow. She'll get the life that she wants. Here it is, proving not only more to her power, more to her character, gaining control over her situation in some way, opening up to her sister, building that bond, continuing to break this cycle. But it also proves that Bruno doesn't just make bad predictions. It proves that his power is misunderstood, how unfair and untrue the treatment from his family has been. And then the final straw for Abuela, which causes the confrontation, which brings the cracks back in full force, destroys the house, destroys the candle. Everyone's magic is gone because the two sisters are getting along and dancing, and the perfect child just learned more about herself and her power. It wasn't even, I'm not going to marry him anymore, Abuela. It was just them being happy. It's so... That sets off Abuela, starts the confrontation. The rest of the cracks show up. The house is destroyed. Something I didn't notice at first, but what sends Abuela to the river, finally open up to and speak to Mirabel. There was a piece of thread from Mirabel's clothes. She has a bi-pride flag, which is a shout out to the actress Stephanie Beatriz. I hope I said that right. She's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The yarn, the string from her clothes is stuck on a thorn from a thorny vine, and it's after What Else Can I Do? The vegetation that popped up all over the place, thorns and all. A strand of string was caught on that thorn branch, and we get a hard shot of it, and that's when she realizes to go this way, return to the river where her husband passed, somewhere I'm sure she's not been to since all that happened. The mountain is split, proving that yes, Mirabel has moved the mountains. She did everything she said she can't do in her want song, Waiting on a Miracle, which is already beautiful. It really was not only for the betterment of the family, for the two sisters to connect, that vine, that thorn being there, catching that string, letting Abuela know to go there, in a sense, have that initiation, or at least that intuition to go that way. That really was the key, and it's so subtle. It's not acknowledged. I could be nuts. I could be overthinking it, but why else would that have been there? I don't know. That's how I saw it. It was withered and old because the magic had already been zapped out of everything. I think that's the idea, is that was one small way that all this stuff connected. And that leads to the closest things to, I wouldn't even call them criticisms or complaints. I wish there were a couple more beats in that final conversation before and through Dos Oruguitas, between Mirabel and Abuela, something to acknowledge, like, we need you to help us build this new foundation. I can't do this without you. I want you here. It's a hard pill to swallow, and you only have so much time to finish up your story. There's something about feeling how this is all on Mirabel to make that initiation, that first move. Yes, Abuela going to the river is a big move in and of itself and a form of initiation for this reconciliation. It felt a little too one-sided, but you get it in subtler ways. Abuela, she owns up to it, yes. But I wish in that conversation there was just a little bit more. I also kind of wish we didn't get as much of Abuela's backstory at the very beginning before Family Madrigal. So that ending, we're learning all that with Mirabel, because we kind of see it twice. But I love Dos Oruguitas. Like, again, I wish by trimming down the very, very beginning, you could add a little more time for another character, Dolores or Camilo, the mom and dad, somebody, aunt and uncle, anybody. But also it would draw more of a revelation in Dos Oruguitas, which is, I think, honestly, one of my favorite parts of the movie, because there's something so painful and heartbreaking, but yet so hopeful, like feeling the song kick in and get warmer, the colors come back, the magic returning, because now we've shared. Abuela is now opening up to Mirabel. There's more of an understanding. She's embracing her granddaughter despite not having a power, despite not living up to these toxic expectations, her letting go of perfection and being grateful for what she had all along. I love that shift. Like, it's so, it blends those two feelings together, the sharing of pain and then the hope that comes from carrying that load of emotion together, reconnecting. You feel that warmth, you feel that expansion of the family, you feel through the music and the visuals, despite having such a really intense conversation about what Abuela went through and acknowledging her mistakes and her relationship with her family and this magic and how intense everything was, the fear of losing something, the connection that she feels to her late husband, the survivor's guilt that she feels. My family is the connection to the love that I lost. That revelation opening up the possibilities for their future before you even see them rebuild the house or the magic returning. You see it there. You see that warm just burst of hope and love despite all that pain, that emotional growth, because it's Dos Oruguitas, two little caterpillars. Yeah, two little caterpillars. Yeah, the first caterpillar being Mirabel, but the second one I would argue being Abuela and her being so stunted emotionally, or I guess rather also this chrysalis she's encased this part of her life in, finally coming to fruition of this metaphorical butterfly. And you see that proof in the pudding when Bruno returns, ready to again sacrifice his good faith with the family. Blame it on me. I told her to do this. Like, I'm the one who destroyed the house. Don't blame this on her. And she just hugs her son. That little Brunito moment, kiss on the cheek, and it said so much right there. Like I said, I wish there was more beats in the conversation between Mirabel and Abuela, because I feel like it felt a little subtle, but you see that proof in the pudding, and she does acknowledge it as they're rebuilding the home. And it's like, what do? Do you trim down this very lovely song in favor of more dialogue and scenes and a longer moment of Bruno returning, apologizing to everyone, when his sisters are just happy that he's okay? Seeing that reconciliation, I wish there was so much more to that. And I love the song, don't get me wrong. It's just, it's weird to have a pacing issue and the pacing is more, please. Like, that's such a weird want. That's such a good thing. And again, it's like, it's the only like real, I wouldn't even call it a criticism. It's just a request. I love it. I just wish it was stretched out a little more. It took me a second to realize they're going to rebuild the house, not only with the help of the community that they've done so much for. Love that moment where they're all like, we're here to help. We're here to lighten the load. It's beautiful. I love that feeling of community and coming together to help each other. Also not using magic because they don't have it back yet. I feel like more time passed than what I felt, because I wanted to feel the healthy family dynamics flourishing. I love the concept of, and then the door to the house is Mirabel's door. I feel like we also should have seen her getting at least a room. I'm glad she doesn't have a power, because it's about accepting, not only accepting herself for not having a power, but the family accepting her for not having a power. I jokingly, not joking, compared it to Sky High in my previous video, but that's something that's hard for me to watch. The really toxic conditional love from Kurt Russell's character, the dad in Sky High. Oh, you have a power now? You're not really grounded. Here's an Xbox. Let's play pool and hang out in my man cave. I love you, son. Kurt Russell, the awful parent, gets what he wants. The commander, not Kurt Russell, the actor, but you know what I mean. It's the better version of that, of no, it's about accepting who you are without the powers, your family embracing who you are without the powers. The Sky High ending is very conditional. This is the right way to do that kind of story, in my opinion. Accepting who you are, supporting you, regardless of what you can and can't do, what you do and don't have, powers, whatever. The gift is a home, a family, a support system. I love that ending. It's such a selfish want. I just want it to be expanded on more. I wanted to live in that more, but I also wanted more from all these characters. It's a line it's just so fast. You talk so loud, you take care of your mother and you make her proud. You talk so loud didn't hit me initially. It's someone who's outspoken compared to Dolores, who has to keep all these secrets and information bottled up, including her feelings. And like little things noticing there, and I wish we had time to explore that more with her. And again, not in an epilogue setting after the story. I want to feel these characters be part of this story as opposed to, Dolores' Tangled Adventures. You know what I mean? Camilo and Antonio on Disney Plus 2024. I still loved it. It's not a complaint. It's just a more, please. Like, I want more of all this stuff. And if it ends up being, they get like a plus expansion epilogue story thing, fine. I'm game for it. I want the mom's perspective on Bruno, but again, it's felt through subtleties. I just want more of those direct moments too. So much is left up to that subtlety. All that subtlety is so brilliant. I wish it was more outspoken, especially when it tackles such big, intense themes that are becoming more normal, but are still in the grand scheme of storytelling so new. Wellness, anxiety, different levels of neglect and generational discourse, and that vicious cycle, and how it's deteriorating this family from within. I loved how a lot of it dumbed down to understanding and listening as opposed to assumptions, grit and bear it, force it down, deny it. I'm very happy with how this movie plays out. I wish there was more of all the characters, which is a good sign. That's a good thing, but also damn it. And I don't know how to give this more time, because I don't see much to really cut out without losing something so big. Or for a while I was thinking, what if you combine the aunt and uncle with the mom and dad? Their wedding's the one that was ruined by Bruno. There's 5 grandchildren, or 6 grandchildren instead of 3 cousins and then the 3 sisters. And I'm I'm not losing. No, I love them. I don't want to lose the aunt and uncle. It's hard. But I wanted more, the perspective from the dad and the uncle being outside looking in, which, speaking of the uncles, wish there was more direct representation. The fact that I wasn't the only one who was vibes ? I wish it was less implied queer representation and something a little more direct, but it's also beautiful to see people connect with these characters on those levels, as well as as an individual in the realm of sexuality and identity, as well as culturally. And I love feeling that being shared and the response from people. I just want the multi-billion-dollar company to, show proof in their posts about solidarity. That's just me. That's not Encanto's fault. But yeah, there you guys go. Those are my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm really new to doing these kind of videos, but I've done a couple before. I wanted to do some more. These are really fun. I like getting my thoughts out for people. I like seeing what other people think. But yeah, there you guys go. Those are my thoughts on Encanto, just breaking it down, analyzing it, reviewing it. I'd love to know more of what you guys think. Like I said, thank you for clicking on my videos and stuff, validating my own thoughts or adding to the perspectives or a whole different perspective altogether. It's been really just engaging reading comments, so thank you guys. Did I miss something? What are your thoughts on my thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, check the settings, set them to all, blah, 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 YouTube words to support me and the channel and get more Encanto and other animation and music content on this channel for the future. If you want more from me, I stream twice a week on my gaming channel, Bill Chill Gaming. That's linked in the description, along with a card linking you to resources for social awareness and education, mental health, crisis lines, Trevor Project resources, things like that. Should you or someone you know need them. Thanks so much again, guys. I hope people like this. I hope it helped kind of explain more of my thoughts. I hope it added something for you to consider, perspective, or something for you to add to the experience. But yeah, I hope to see you guys next time I upload or go live. Be safe, be mindful of others, wear a mask if you choose to go out, And remember to take care of yourselves, please.